Show me a
This is so good.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 51. Jeez, that's a lot of episodes of Geeklife Live, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. We're kicking it off with season 3, and I'm your host with the most for the evening, Jake the Great, aka Gonzo. Sorry, my dog is making some racket right now. Gonzo Gone Live. Joining me today, the myth, the legend, the Dodd. How are you doing tonight, Dodd? Any news that you'd like to share with the class?
What's up? What's up? Yes, guys. It's now not just the Dodd. It's the Dodd with new rock stars. That's the new title, because I have just taken on a producer title over at New Rockstars. So I'm sure that's the news you were referring to. Am I right?
Cue the clap sound, Cape.
Cue the clap. Yeah.
God damn it! We didn't have the clap sound queued up.
Golf clap. You didn't have it queued up. No. But
Okay.
yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited to join an awesome team. Eric Voss, there's really nobody that does breakdowns like Eric Voss. So I am excited to pick his brain and be a part of a really, really cool team. So yeah.
You can literally set the Discord and fire anytime, just say Mephisto. And everybody's going to be like, no, confirmed!
Confirmed.
Oh man, I'm very excited. I'm very proud of you. It's an awesome opportunity. So great job, Dad. It's fucking phenomenal. But
Thanks,
we
man.
also have new to the show, or new to the channel, but not new to the show.
New to this channel.
It's the brutal Mind Child. I mean, the Savage Patch Kid. See, how you doing, Savage?
To workshop that pun, but I'm doing absolutely fantastic. It is a huge honor to finally be here, both behind the camera instead of behind the keyboard. Super excited to run the show with you guys. Dodd, congratulations. Rockstars. That's a different band. We're all super proud of you. Super excited to be here today, and let's talk about nerdy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was brutal Mind Child. See, it's like Savage Patch Kid.
Savage.
And-
I'll have to explain the story of that
Brutal
name one
Mind
day.
Child.
But
Mend,
I
like
get-
a
I
mend.
get it, I
Like
get it.
instead of a patch, it's a mending.
And yeah,
And
yeah,
brutal
man.
instead of savage.
Mhm.
I
got
This is
the pieces
we
are
just
there.
made-
It's one of those genius Jake jokes
No,
that you have
no.
to explain for 30 minutes, right?
Season 3, baby, it's Wordle. Like, we're getting there. And so, we're back for season 3, though. And how have you guys been? We have been away for a hot minute now. Honestly, it feels like it's been forever, and a lot has gone on. What have you guys been doing to survive without the channel being live every Sunday?
Well, obviously, I've been working my fucking ass off and trying to figure out new ways to make content. I've been playing a lot of Arceus. And Savage has joined me in playing with that. We've done some poly couch streams. It's been a lot of fun.
Arceus is a huge
couple of those.
on release, which I'm sure we will discuss a lot more in depth later.
Yeah, for sure.
No, we're going to be going into it just a little bit.
Tiny bit, a hair, a skosh. I just picked up Elden Ring and
yes.
started playing some of that as a big Dark Souls fan. Hugely already impressed, because they are very much embracing the model of it ain't broken, fix it. I know, Jake, you have picked up that as well, and this is your first Souls game.
Yes, yeah.
Do you have a quick 30-second thought / impression / do you hate yourself?
Dude, the longer I sit with it, the more I want to get back into it, and I don't know what that says about me as a person.
Masochism.
But no, it was brutal. It really was. It was super brutal. It's a hard game, and I liked the challenge, but it definitely, I want to do a kill count on myself, if I can possibly, and just kind of do a little bit of just see how many times I died within that first 2 hours that I played it, But it was a lot of fun. It's a beautiful game, really
Just a
beautiful.
kill clip. Yeah, I had you on mute for a little while, and I didn't need to hear what was going on, because I could see through your frustrations, just throwing your hands up. There's some pretty. They just throw you in it. They just throw you in the deep end of those games, don't they?
Yeah, it's get good or get dead.
Yeah.
the immediate you fight the first boss like right after you come out of what is like a pretty easy little tutorial like place, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And that dude just works you. Apparently you can beat him. I've seen people beat him, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, these guys are super pros. I'm just not even close.
You can technically beat any introductory Souls boss that's supposed to kill you by script. You can technically beat any of them if you're like super good or you're hacking. But this was not one of the games where I was able to successfully do that.
Oh no, not at all. Sweet. Well, I mean, enjoy it yourself. If you're a Souls fan, I definitely think it's one of those that you're going to enjoy. It seems a little different. Everybody's doing a little something different these days. You know what I mean? Pokemon, Souls, all of it's kind of like changing it up a bit, just trying to play around. And I mean, I'm here for it. But anyway, if you're new to the show here, we are about a 2.5-hour mashup of all the nerdy news you know and love. We talk about your favorite shows, movies, games, and all kinds of nerdy stuff. If you like anything you see or hear tonight on the show, be sure to like, comment, subscribe to all of our social medias. That LinkTree is in the bio. And for more content, follow us on all of our personal socials. Dodd, where can they find you at?
You can find me at Roose Bane on Twitch, Twitter, and Twitch, Twitter, and Twitch Talk. Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also hopefully find me at New Rockstars sometime soon. So,
oh yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah. And Savage, where can we find you at?
You can find me right here on Twitch at Savage _patch _kid. Those are 2 underscores that typographically missed a lot. But I don't have a regular streaming schedule, but I like to pop in occasionally and just cheer up people's. That's where you can.
Well, that is always awesome. It's always needed. It's always welcome. You know what I mean? Everybody needs a cheerleader. So,
100%.
Well, we've got a great show planned for you guys, but don't go running unless it's down. It is time for the rundown. First up, we've got all the nerdy news you need to know, from more Activision Blizzard drama to the crown losing some of its jewels. Then we're going to power up some hot takes. We've got a new mod called Head to Head coming up. And this week, we're talking about the latest installment of the Pocket Monsters franchise. Next, we are diving deep in this week's Deep Dive. And boy, it is on the big game buyouts, and it's going to be a fun one. And then we are going to wrap things up with our Top Zen, which you voted on the top 10 indie games. And that's just going to be an awesome one. I love a good indie game. So now that run has been downed, let's get right into those headlines. But first, Doodle, do that dandy.
Doodle dandy.
Tonight at 11.
Gruesome! Siege on other test of the emergency meteor warning system.
In other news, I'll get you to the cha-cha like a sissy girl.
All right. Well, thank you, Doodle, for that dandy. And thanks, Jake, for that introduction. First up, Activision Blizzard shareholder sues over the Microsoft sale. An Activision Blizzard shareholder filed a lawsuit against the game publisher and its board of directors over the alleged Securities Exchange Act violation in its proposed planned sale to Microsoft. The lawsuit, filed by shareholder Kyle Watson, was filed in California last Thursday. Watson's lawyers called Activision Blizzard's plan for the sale, outlined in recent Securities and Exchange Commission's SEC proposal, a quote, unfair for a number of reasons, unquote. One of which his lawyers said is the board is looking to, quote, procure for themselves and senior management significant and immediate benefits, unquote. So a lot of interesting stuff going on there. Next up, the NVIDIA RTX 30 series Ethereum mining tool was actually malware. A program that was meant to restore Ethereum mining potential of NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 30 and the RTX A series graphics cards has instead been discovered to infect the host computers with malware. As reported by Tom Hardware, the NVIDIA RTX LHR V2 unlocker was said to modify the firmware of graphics cards to remove mining performance capacities introduced by NVIDIA to make its LHR, which is the light hash rate boards, unattractive to miners. While making these kind of changes to the graphics card BIOS can be considered half legal action, those who attempted to undertake this process were met with big issues. Not only did this LHR unlocker install .msi fail to uncap the mining performances of these cards, but they also infected a PowerShell.exe with malware. Oof. Big oof.
Biggest
Biggest
Yeah.
oof. Yeah.
Huge.
Huge oof. Next up, thieves steal $200,000 of antique props used in The Crown. The Crown has used over $200,000 worth of antique props, $200,000 worth of antique props stolen from its set. The popular Netflix series is currently filming in Mexborough, Yorkshire, where the theft occurred. Over 350 items were taken, including a gold and silver cabarets, a 10-piece silver dressing table, Russian religious icons, and a replica Fabergé egg. However, it is thought that the theft will not affect production. Netflix saves the queen. And last but not least, in our headlines at least, one of the best Zelda games is now available on the Nintendo Switch. Subscribers to the Nintendo Switch Online and the expansion pack now have access to one of the greatest games in all of the Zelda franchise, as a Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask has been officially added. The Nintendo 64 Classic is widely beloved and has earned a devoted following in the years since its first release. While Majora's Mask is quite a bit different from most other Zelda games, that quirkiness is a part of the charm. Now, those that have never gotten the chance to experience the game can do so on the Nintendo Switch. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask released in 2000, just 2 years after the release of Ocarina of Time. The game is a direct follow-up, but incorporates a number of differences that set it apart. With yet another classic coming to Switch, which old school classic would you like to see make it on the Switch? Ryan, or Savage, what would you like to see have?
Nintendo Classic could finally make its way to Switch. I'm still really, really upset that we have not seen any of the original Metroid Prime trilogy make its way to Switch just yet, and especially with the advent of newer Metroid games coming out like Metroid Dread, I feel like that was actually a really missed opportunity, because Metroid Dread was the first Metroid game, especially side-scroller, that we had since Fusion, and if you remember, Fusion and Prime were released almost immediately through Prime because there was a lot of integration between the two. If you completed one game, you got bonus items in the other because it utilized the GBA cable, which was only like one of 3 or 4 major games to do so. So whenever I think of like classic games that I would really like to turn to, Metroid Dread really made me feel that itch for Metroid Prime, and I would really like to play those games again on a television console, not a handheld console, looking at you.
Fair
Which
enough.
won't matter in a year
Fair
anyway.
enough. That would be dope.
Fair
though.
enough,
No,
fair
it
enough.
would be, and you nail it too. Especially with more Metroid games coming out and everything. Like, why not just port them? Which they probably will. I mean, like us finally getting. And the answer to that for me is Majora's Mask, probably. If I'm like being honest, like I've been waiting for this one to make its way to Switch for a minute. I'm very excited about this game. It's gonna be hella fun. And
I looked up. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was
was
just
gonna
gonna
say-
say, and what
go
up,
ahead.
Tato? What up, I see like Nelly, everybody that's kind of going off. I just had to give a special shout out to Tato. Thanks for jumping on, and also
Yes.
Pistachios here. Jeez, dude,
Yes.
we're Metro booming, boys.
Yeah, for real. It's good to see Greatest Pistachio, Totally Awesome, Quarley and Henzel, Littlest Nelly. We've had a lot of people hanging out here. I think we had MB Remby as well here. Fattest Sax was in here earlier. Good to see the whole crew. Of course, Caper Doodle as well.
Big Saxy,
Big
as always.
Saxy.
Exactly.
But if there was one that I would be really interested in seeing, it would start to be some of these classic GameCube games. I'm ready to move on, right? We were seeing a lot of these classic N64 games. I want to see some Luigi's Mansion. I want to see some Smash Bros. Melee. I want to see some, like we saw Super Mario Sunshine. Like we've already seen some of these N64 games. There were some great classics out there. There were some really heavy hitters, and like there's nothing out there that you can play those N64 games on except for not N64 GameCube games that you can't play on other than a GameCube. So let's go ahead and start moving those forward. It's about time, right?
No,
We're really just getting to Majora's Mask. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Let's see where Twilight Princess is at.
Pikmin.
The resale value now on refurbished GameCubes, you can still find them, which are insanely difficult to find. But like, if you can still find them, they can run you anywhere from $80 to $100, just because they've still maintained that exclusivity for a lot of the titles. Like you've got piece of the occasional remasters, like some Tales games. There are ways to see. You see some of the re-releases, some of the 3D games on Switch, Mario Sunshine. I predict that if we're ever going to see a game like Metroid Prime on Switch, it's probably going to be in the form of some like remaster collection that we're charged for again, because Nintendo really likes the theme of doing that. We'll talk more about that later when we talk about Arceus. But if we're going to see it, it's not going to something we're going to for their.
Gotcha.
100%. But talking about the acquisition that keeps on giving, will Microsoft regret buying Activision Blizzard, guys? Like, we've seen a lot of news coming out of this one, and everything just kind of keeps piling up on it. What are your guys? And I know we're going to get a little bit into it in the deep dive, but just right off of for this new lawsuit, what are you guys thinking is going through Microsoft's head right now?
You asked if they're going to regret buying Activision Blizzard?
Yeah.
No.
No.
And Activision Blizzard is not going to regret being bought by Microsoft either.
No.
Yeah, either of them. Like, I think this is still a great deal for both of them. There's one stakeholder here, I think, that is upset because they were left out of the deal. But I think that overall, it's mutually beneficial for both companies. Probably the most beneficial for just those companies and not really anybody else, including the consumers.
And including, I mean, the gaming industry too. But with we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
But what do you think? What do you think, Savage?
I think that the only person, I agree. I think the only person who's not benefiting is the person filing the complaint, and it sounds like it's mostly because he wasn't included. The quote was an unfair number of reasons, including what secured themselves and senior medium benefits, including sweeping their incredibly catastrophically failed reputation under, which is one of the best things. You can take the cash too, but their negative reputation goes away with this. They won't exist. We won't forget, but in the object permanence of the internet, you don't see the name Activision Blizzard anymore. You forget about that thing that they did.
Yeah.
No,
100%.
But same wavelength.
Does anybody really feel bad for Bitcoin miners getting scammed here on this whole malware thing on the 37 graphics cards?
Also, no.
Yeah.
No.
So I knew that. I kind of thought that would be the consensus, because I mean, if you don't know why these graphic cards are so expensive, it's because A, there's a huge superconductor shortage. No one can get their hands on them. They're not making as many of these 30 series. And B, everybody's using bots to scoop them up so that they can mine Bitcoin instead of actually play games with them. And so I don't really feel as bad for them getting scammed. I mean, Ethereum miners, I know it's, I almost want to quote the Flintstones dinosaur, like, it's a living. Like, I get that you want to do it, but like, you're kind of fucking a lot of people out of gaming. So I really,
I can just, from the perspective of everyone who's not a miner and was literally just trying to get like a new upgraded NVIDIA card because it's what they wanted and what they wanted to use like in their rig. Imagine how pissed off those people are, only to find out that there's a mass malware infection across this entire line of like video cards because of some minor shit. Like, you have to wait 6 months to finally get something, or at very least only to find out that it's incredibly susceptible to malware infection. I'd be livid.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a 30 series, but not using it to mine any Bitcoins or anything right now. Just using it to play Elden Ring. As I have settings as I can.
Yeah.
But $200,000 in props. Did they actually have the Queen's jewels in there? What are you guys thinking about as far as this Netflix, the Queen's, what was it? The crown? A bunch of $200,000 in props stolen.
I think that if it's anything like the real crown jewels, they probably just stole them anyways. They're fine.
Yeah. I mean, it surprises me that it's only 200,000. That number is actually kind of low to me.
Yeah, I kind of get that too. I think I saw somebody actually say that, like 200,000 in props. That seems like a lot, but like, no, I actually thought
it's
that
really
was
not.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that is like, honestly, the part of that I do feel bad about is not necessarily from Netflix losing $200,000. Who cares? The part about that I think sucks the worst, the fact that is a lot of labor, time, and effort spent on behalf of people in production, props department, who now basically have to do their jobs all over again. I don't know if anyone's been paying attention over the past 6 months, issues with streaming production services and the IATSE strike that was happening. But like, these are the people that are already being screwed when it comes to labor and appreciation, and now they have to do $200,000 worth of work. Some jackass stuff that
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the good side though, silver lining. That's just more jobs, right? Like, hey, they get to do it again.
That and Matt Smith is fine, so I guess I'm okay too.
But
That's
hey,
all that matters at the end.
I mean,
that's not all the news that we have for you guys this week. Our top story is all the news from the day's Pokemon Direct. If you didn't catch it, the Dodd went live this morning actually with Pokemon Direct, but
I
it's
did.
savage. What all did we get this morning? Break it down for the people.
Okay, so at bright and shiny 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, Nintendo graced us with
It was brutal.
yeah, I say that with absolutely no stink. Day on our Pokemon Day, Nintendo had a wonderful series of announcements lined up for us. Like after an entire week of honestly, what some people are considering a series of kind of lackluster announcements. They hit us with sort of the short and sweet bulleted list today of just kind of what to expect in the upcoming year. And of course, I guess jumping right into it, they opened with their lowest balls, and they first announced a series of updates for a lot of their mobile and subsidiary games. First one, of course, right out the gate being Pokemon Go, and announced Pokemon Go right off of the Pokemon Go Johto tours, and Alola's Pokedex from Generation 7 will now be added to Pogo, and today with a special micro kind of event regarding the release of Alolan Executor. For anyone playing Pogo, you may have noticed that, like, oh, we already have some Alolan, but they're all just regional form variants. We don't have any of the actual raw Pokemon. And that's the new thing that more of coming here within this year. Pokemon Masters EX, personally played, but from what I understand, it's a very sort of team squad alignment kind of a thing. It's celebrating its 2.5-year anniversary. Celebrate half anniversaries, that's a thing.
Half anniversaries?
Half anniversary.
What are they in high school?
It's just an anniversary, I guess. Well, they announced a new Victory Road feature, which allows for a combination of teams and some character outfits. So their roster of already 147 characters. Couple of variety of login bonuses just to kind of try to generate hype into it, and including the addition, mostly just some new regional outfits and stuff like that. My understanding of Pokemon Master EX is it feels very much like a mobile game in the sense that there is a lot of micro acquisitions involved. So take that for what you will. Pokemon Cafe Remix, a puzzle game on mobile devices, Switch. Puzzle game, highly inaccurate service simulator, whatever you want to call it, has introduced some new connected systems called their delivery system, in addition to releasing some new Pokemon like Victini and Piplup as characters. But that's all kind of like the mobile, less, I guess, core Pokemon audience. Moving with their larger titles, we got announcement from Unite, including a new mode called Full Fury Battle Mode. Specifics of which are still kind of gray and decided. I'm sure the already Aurora contain, but any official details have unannounced. But
full frontal mode.
I mean, in
No.
Nintendo, never. But I'm certain in
Well,
certain parts of the internet, that's probably a thing.
Yeah.
We all know. But more importantly and more interesting, they have announced 2 new roster additions to their roster, including the mythical Hoopa, which is, I guess, a big deal too. This is not technically new news in the sense that it actually debuted earlier last week, I believe on Thursday, but they included it in their announcement today, and they will also be including Gen 8's favorite pseudo-serpentine steel skyscraper, Duraludon, potentially somewhere this year at an unannounced date. Dodd, as someone who plays Unite, what typing do you have for Duraludon? What do you think it's going to be? What do you think?
I mean, he's still going to be. Typing's not going to really matter too much here. I think he's more going to be he was a special attacker in Swish, right? For the most part, from what I'm thinking, using things like flash cannon and stuff like that. So I would imagine that he's going to do. I mean, like he's built literally like a cannon to like fall over and open his mouth and launch beams out and so on. That's what I'm thinking is most likely going to be the case. But we have seen a couple of little kind of full on moves. I don't know. I would be surprised if we don't see flash cannon. I would be surprised if we don't see something like a Draco Meteor or something like that. But yeah, those would be some of my guesses. What about you?
I think he's probably going to land himself solidly into defender role, because just based on general mechanics of how I operated in Unite. But also in the video clip, you are able to a few at least of his beginning tier moves. You see him using Rock Slash, or Stealth Rock. You see him using some kind of slashing attack. So I think we're definitely going to run somewhere in the all-rounder defender camp. But where we go from there, I guess everybody's got to get that release. Who knows?
I think it's a good calls. Good calls for sure.
Continuing on their main core titles, there was an announcement for BDSP as well, Brilliant Chinese Pearl. So for the all of maybe 9 people still playing the game, myself included, they have officially announced the Shaman Gift event, which is a big deal for Gen 4 players, because mythical Pokemon that you could originally only get through an event anyway. However, this shouldn't be a huge surprise to anybody to be paying attention to ESP since its release, because Shaman is one of the very first things that was data mined, and one of the first things that was hack exploited when it came out before the update. So any Shaman before this legal, however, everyone knew what was going on. Not necessarily news. And little flower hedgehog, go get him if you want him. He's real cute. Say living. Or you can catch him at Arceus. Also that. Speaking of Arceus, we do have they announced their first update, update 1.1, calling it Daybreak, using some new mass outbreak investigation and new battle modes in the Jupiter training ground. But as far as like any really expansive DLC or roster upgrades or battle system changes, none of that was included in their announcement. Probably not something we're going to need soon, if you ask. But all of that aside, and of course they saved it till the very, very end, the only news that anyone actually cares about or is talking about right now is we officially, gentlemen, unofficial drum roll, we officially have confirmation and titles for Gen 9. We are now, they announced Pokemon Scarlet.
Screams!
They have announced Pokemon Scarlet, Pokemon Violet. It has nothing to do with Southern Belle.
But I'm getting Scarlet.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I
get Scarlet,
a legendary drag queen Pokemon, I really don't know what else to do, because the opportunity is there. But yes, so in a live action trailer at the end of the announcement, we see possibly a whole lot of things, or possibly nothing. This is Nintendo. But one of the things we do actually see is we see gameplay footage teaching things like regional architecture and some possible mechanical inclusions from things you see in Arceus, i.e. open world and open world matching. But you also see things like what is apparently a very nice graphical overhaul of what some of the individual Pokemon look like, utilizing this OLED screen. Environmental design we can talk about if you want to, but we all know kind of never been Nintendo's focus. But most importantly, we see our first 3 starters from Gen 9, and the internet is already exploding over it.
Yeah, chat already exploded over it. I don't know if you guys caught that earlier. We did a vote at the beginning of the segment to see who your starter was going to be, and everybody picked Fuecoco, my smooth brain little like just I don't even know what it is.
We have Fuecoco,
Fuecoco is the fire type.
The fire type crocodile
T-Rex
Pokemon?
Apple thing?
Fire crocodile. It's a fire crocodile is what he said.
Not an apple. We'll jump off that later. So we have Fuecoco, the fire type crocodile. We have Sprigatito.
You go Fuecoco. 2 for you, Fuecoco.
You go Fuecoco. Yeah, thank you, Jake. We have Sprigatito, the grass type cat Pokemon. And we have
no love from chat. Chat didn't love Sprigatito at all, for some reason.
Well, we're not going to talk. Well, chat's wrong.
Hard pass.
But we also have Quaxley, the elegantly coiffed and probably very sassy duck-like water Pokemon, who look about to throw down with some sharks or some jets. Started the neighborhood.
Jake, when you saw Quaxley, you said, quote in chat, this guy does a dance number before he fights, and I was like, yes, I saw that. Just like,
dude, this Doug right before you tell him to like hit him with the like I don't know, like. But anyway, he definitely does like some snapping. He probably has like a switchblade on him. If an evolved version didn't have like a leather jacket, then
wears
like...
way too much cologne. Way too much.
No, that's my starter. As soon as I saw him, I was like in love. Like that's it.
So I guess the real question then becomes is, guys, who are y'all picking? I'm all about. I'm Team Sprigatito till the day I die. I don't even know anything about it.
Sprigatito smells like catnip. You know that's what.
Good. Like, let's be. It's a member of the mint family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going with. Well, I usually go with fire types, anyways. It's hard for me to stray away from the fire type starter.
Wow.
But yeah, so I would be picking the smooth brain there. I'm gonna go with I can just imagine Fuecoco, like how he says his name is Fuecoco. Like he's like gonna be like the slow bro of like the fire type.
I kind of like that though. I do. I'm not.
If it's not, I'll be disappointed.
I kind of like these 3 starters. I'm interested to see what they evolve to, because that's always, like the biggest thing, obviously, like who they kind of go to. But now that I think about it, the cat kind of reminds me of weed, so I may like it more.
Yeah,
you said catnip.
I think it's supposed to be parsley. I think it's a parsley leaf. That's on. Say this for a number of reasons.
But now
we get into or not. But I also just wanted to shout out Piggly here in chat. Also posing the question what our legendaries are going to be.
Ooh.
That's going to be as well.
I think one of them is going to be Scarlet and one of them is going to be Violet. Here's my guess, okay? This is just hopeful. This is going to be based off of Spain, right? Okay? I hope we get a legendary, like, giant, crazy, like the Scarlet version is this big, monstrous red bull kind of creature, right? And the Violet version is more of and the Violet version is like a like this like a very like it's a legendary Pokemon, but it'd be like a rose like leaf type, kind of like Celebi, but like a flowery dancer kind of thing, right? And then there's like some kind of relationship between these two kind of creatures, the big scary beast and the beautiful, flower dancer. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, because amongst all the regional speculation, I am firmly in the camp of this taking place in Mediterranean or with lots of Spanish influence.
Love and hate. That's what you have it over. You haven't had a love and hate mon, right? We haven't had legendaries that are like legendary Pokemon of love or the legendary Pokemon of hate, right? Boom, you have the bull be hate and you have the flower dancer be love. That's my
love languages, you know what I mean?
I would love some regional variations of Oricorio. Piggly just pointed that out in chat. I think that would be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
No,
that would be great.
I think if this game pulls some stuff from Arceus, then it could be a good. If it continues that step in a direction, then it could be a decent one. And I like the starters, so
I think that's what we'll see.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm excited for my smooth brain boy.
Well, we have a special treat for you guys. We've got a brand new mod segment that we're calling Head to Head. If you're not in the nerd herd, shout out to the Discord, by the way. The links are below. Then you probably don't know that me, Dodd, and a lot of the folks here at Geek Life, we're pretty opinionated. And it made us think, why not just make our bickering into a whole segment? So let's do it. Kate, run that doodle. Or do that doodle. Do the doodle.
Can't
Doodled all over the
doodled
place.
like that. Just doodled right there.
I'm increasingly uncomfortable with this.
Well, Ryan, you're playing moderator this week, so why don't you take it away?
Okay, so I guess
God
today
damn
is. I mean, I have multiple.
The man of many names.
Man of many names. As Jake kind of just introduced, we are talking about a rather divisive topic today, which we have alluded on accidentally or otherwise in earlier conversation. The point is, today we're talking about gaming in general is a preferential thing for any number of reasons. Not everyone's eye to eye on the title for a continuing number of different reasons. That said, we have this debate segment in the spirit of fun and good quality. And our question tonight is Pokemon Arceus. Pokemon Legends Arceus has been the subject of a lot of conversation. Now, I think it's still the second or third most popularly streamed game on Twitch right now.
Yeah.
But I guess the ultimate question we're boiling it down to is, for a $60 price tag for a game that we already know for a fact, at least not this year, is not receiving content or DLC, is it worth $60? And before we start getting down nitty gritty of it, chat, I'm sure every one of y'all have. Well, please feel free to sound off chat, and we will see where we lead with that. But starting off, I guess we'll start with Dotson being as the resident Pokemaniac. Dotson, would you argue that Arceus is worth $60 price, which it still commands today?
Yes, yeah, I would, and I think we're gonna try to see if we can get a poll going on in chat to see if chat can do this as well. But here's my case for why Legends of Arceus is worth $60, right? Legends of Arceus is unlike any other Pokemon game that's ever been made. They honestly reinvented the wheel for Pokemon games here. A lot of the new catching mechanics here, you're actually going through and hiding in the grass using things like smoke bombs and sticky bombs to go through, and you can battle the Pokemon to catch them, but you can also just catch them by sneaking up on them. And they've found some ways to make this mechanic incredibly rewarding, right? That sound when you hit a Pokemon on the back of the head is like, and you do it. Even though it's, sometimes feels a little bit evil when you're chugging a lead ball at a Pachirisu at 2 meters away and trying to hit it on the back of the head.
What does steel ever do to
satisfying, It is satisfying. Hitting a Magnezone in the air with a feather ball off the side of a cliff, also really, really satisfying. Battling alphas, everything in this world makes hunting for wild Pokemon just so much more rewarding, no matter which Pokemon that you're going for. And then not only are you encountering more Pokemon in the wild, but you're using your Pokemon for more things out there, right? You're using Pokemon to craft your items. You're using Pokemon to help you find things, not just you're using your Pokemon to travel. You're using your Pokemon, it's not just using them for the HMs to cut things down and stuff like that, but you're actually even getting experience from having them do these things for you. Everything about this has really just brought a lot of depth to this typical Pokemon game that just hasn't been there before. And now when you're going out in the Asui region, it really feels like an adventure, right? This is what Pokemon games should have been, probably, 2 or 3 years ago. But this step is a step that is 2 or 3 years in advance from where they have been in the past. The storyline took well over 24 hours for me to complete, so thus it feels much fuller than even Sword and Shield, right? I feel like I could get through the main chunk of the storyline in Sword and Shield in probably 10 hours, maybe 18 if I was trying to do every single other thing, including DLC. Now, let's get to the meat of it. Graphically, this game needs work. There's a lot of things that are patched in there that just don't look right. The trees, some of the textures on the environment in general. A lot of these vast mountains and seas, as while they're open and they're fun and they're full of Pokemon that you can explore, they just do not look good from far away. And let's not get started with throwing Pokeballs in the water and seeing what those look like, because you could probably count the pixels on one hand. That being said,
there's at least 6.
There's at least 6.
2 hands.
That being said, okay, Pokemon games have never been about graphics, right? These started off as handheld games. These started off as handheld games in the day of N64, right? We don't ask this of things like Shovel Knight. We don't ask this of things like all these older games to be something that they were never supposed to be. But Pokemon did keep on evolving and trying to at least keep up in some ways. But the priority has never been about the visual appeal of it. It is not something like Madden or Call of Duty where the hyper-realism or the graphical detail is key to the storytelling elements. And the expectation of graphics is literally killing some of these games. I would rather have a game this committed to progress than something like Madden, which is so focused on visual mechanics and that sell mechanically the same game year after year. Then I would rather have this, you know, a game that may be 2 to 3 years behind, but is making those leaps, you know, forward in such big strides that you have a drastically different game like you have with Legends of Arceus than you do with Switch. Than some of the other games that are much more committed to the visual aesthetics. Games that are applauded for their visual aesthetics, right? The visual difference between Halo 3 and Halo Infinite is drastically more minimal than the visual difference we're talking about from Sword and Shield to this right here, right? To Arceus, or even the gameplay changes, the mechanics changes, right? You're talking about. And no one sits here and compares games like Halo Infinite to being worth $60. Not every game has to be hyper-realistic graphics to be good, and graphics aren't essential to enjoy a game. The game is worth, even if all of those arguments don't sell it to you, at the end of the day, a game is worth what you pay for it, right? And this game has been one of the fastest-selling Pokemon games of all time. Switch games are never going to, and they're never supposed to graphically compare to other games. And so people love to hate on Pokemon because it's impossible to dethrone them, even when their competitors do put out better products. Like we see better products from things like Temtem. We see better products from whatever the Pokemon with Guns developer is, and all those kind of things. But it has such big brand power that I think it really, really bothers people that it's able to get away with so much, even when its competitors put out something there. But that's the beauty of Pokemon, and I think because of that ability you have to be able to stamp your name on it, it is absolutely worth $60.
Nostalgia, yeah.
Snelly makes a really good point, kind of related to what you were saying. Pokemon targets kids and a younger kids media audience that is super high, and that super high in visual quality is actually statistically worse for children's brains, limits the amount of imagination and mental work they can do. Which I think is actually like that is a statistically provable fact. But I guess my only question to your points then is I think you make a very good point in the sense that we're kind of this is showing a lot of graduation of Pokemon to like more developed concepts like mechanics, enjoyment, and interaction, and just world building in general. Even if the world built isn't built very prettily, do you think it is worth $60 for step in the right direction as opposed to being at the direction?
I mean, I think that everyone's we've all said along the way that games like we were talking about, as I used Halo 3 all the way up through Halo Infinite. I mean, to give I don't even know if Halo 4 is the one right after, but I think there was at least 3 or 4 Halo games in between there. But mechanically, they've pretty much been the same kind of games out there. I mean, there's things that they've added in, like, you know, now you have
different laser,
a zip claw or something like that. But mechanically, you're still doing the same thing. It's not like something
belittling Halo a little at this point.
Well, I'm talking about. I mean, yes, I am at this point, because this is a game that has never been in one of the contenders of saying, is this worth $60? Even though you had Halo 3, which is mechanically very similar to the same thing. But Pokemon has been a game that hasn't always especially when it was a handheld game. It was never about the graphics then. You would be comparing something that was a handheld game to what would be an N64, which would be a console game at the time. No one had those standards.
Extend our poll time.
Do what?
I said we need to extend our poll time.
I know, right? I completely lost my train of thought though. Anyways, I've made plenty of my case for why I think it is worth 60.
Okay, yes, very good cases and points made. And now to the other side of the debate, I'm a long-time debate moderator. I'm really bad at this. But Jake, I'm assuming you have many counterpoints to these opinions. Or is yours?
I don't really necessarily counterpoints. I just have a lot of thoughts on the game in general, and the biggest one being it isn't worth 60. So that's where we definitely kind of split. You know, I think the last 6 to 7 years have been lazy, and I've played every game. That's the thing. I'm not a Pokemon hater. Like, you can't like say that I haven't given them money. I have. And so, this is the first time
all around.
this is the first time in 20 years that it's been something different, but it's still not worth $60. I'm going to go ahead and list out some of my pros. Finally, they changed it up. Finally. You directly fight with bosses with your Pokemon. That's fun. It feels like you're actually participating with your Pokemon instead of just sending them out there to, die. And so the open world sneaking up on Pokemon, the whole hitting them, like you said, that feel when you hit them with a Pokeball, feel it. Yeah. It feels great, And so it just seeing them out there, even when they're just statues. I mean, because they're just statues. They move a little, but they just do little bitty, and then they may look at you. And then, but anyway, we'll get into that in the cons. I'm still in the pros. So, but then the crafting is cool. Changing moves, that was really nice. I think some of the what are they called? Where it makes life
ease
better.
Of life.
Yeah, ease of life.
Quality of life.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. Yeah.
Yes, savage. And so quality of life improvements that they made, those were really great. How they streamlined a lot of stuff has been awesome. Mounts were amazing. The fact that we don't have to have TM slaves anymore, fucking phenomenal. And then they really did a great job with, just experimenting, and all the ingredients are there. But now I got to get to my cons. That is the most empty open world I think I've ever played. Did a nuke go off? Is this a post-nuclear apocalypse Pokemon game? And
it's a pre-nuclear apocalypse.
And, Pokemon are basically just standing around. The art direction is bad. I mean, that's just what it is. The graphics aren't really the thing. It's the art direction. They kind of tried to do something Breath of the Wildy, and I get what they were going with the old Japan look, and, I just wish they would have dove into it. Look at Ghost of Tsushima. I know two completely different games, but, if you're just looking at that branding and how they, leaned into that shit, fucking lean in, man. Get vivid with it. Don't get this weird kind of anyway. The art direction was just bad. The game didn't look good. They went for Breath of the Wild, completely missed. The water even looks like shit, and that's at least get a few things right. This looks like GameCube trees, GameCube water. The research system, grueling, super repetitive for no reason. It feels more like a chore than something fun. Honestly, the fact that I just have to look through my Pokedex and figure something out just to try to and I get that that's more of a completionist thing, and I don't have to do that, you know what I mean? And so honestly, I haven't. I've had a lot more fun not focusing on that and just getting to the point to where I can get the level of Pokemon I want and then just moving on. And so the story is bad. Even for a Pokemon game, this story is bad. The generic protagonist, the story's basically non-existent and completely nonsensical. What was I done? I was sent in the past by a Pokemon to help enslave Pokemon? Is that what's happening here? The cutscenes aren't even really animated. It looks like some kids just playing with action figures and they put words in front of it. And the side quests are, as a concept, are nice, but they're super generic and just not fleshed out. Literally, most money made from a franchise of all time. And I still can't get any voice acting. I have to read everything. It's like a fucking storybook. They have made...
You're not used to JRPGs, are you?
No. That's the thing, though. Name another one that's made $100 billion.
I mean, there's... I can't name one.
There's none.
But
there's none. It's a top 5
that are out there.
Most grossing film of all time, or most grossed game of all time. And it still looks like somebody at fucking Cartoon Network made it, where they're just posting some things together with some. It looks like a fucking what was that Nintendo show, Action Now or whatever, that was with the action figures. Anyway, literally the most money made from a franchise of all time. They still can't get voice acting. It's just animation. It's basically a visual novel for $60. You brought up Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight was a Kickstarter game, not a 30-year-old franchise.
Shovel Knight's made by Yacht Club, and Yacht Club has plenty of money right now. They kickstart all of their games. They kickstart all their games not because they need the funding for it, because they have how they want to grow their community.
Because I didn't.
My bad. You're right.
We'll get there.
You're right.
And so I'm just bringing up, these are my points, man. It is $100 billion franchise, and it is still just so generic at times, and it's sad. I think I get upset about it because I don't get why Pokemon fans that are bigger fans than me aren't more upset about it. It's disrespectful at this point. You've given more money than almost anyone else in the world has to a franchise, and all they give you is the same exact shit back almost every year. It's in almost worse fashion than Madden, because at least Madden goes, well, at least we'll make this turd pretty.
No, I mean, but
and so that's my point.
I mean, I push back hard against the Madden thing. I mean, literally, if all you're getting is visual graphics and no actual content, no actual thing that steps forward. I mean, we both.
We get a story mode. They add more. You guys just don't play Madden. See, I play all the games I shit on.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, sure. I haven't played. I haven't played Madden story mode. So I'll give you that. I'll give you. I haven't played Madden story mode, but. The point of it is that, I mean, like, essentially every year you're getting something that is mechanically the same. Nothing that they're adding, no depth that they're adding to it. But there's no doubt you can hate the story all you want. There's
first
nothing
time in 20 years that they did that for Pokemon, though. And I gave them that. Did I not?
No, you didn't at the end. That's what you're saying. You're wrapping up your whole point with the lack of progress, that it should be unacceptable. But this is obviously showing progress. And even when you look at the stuff with Gen 9, I mean, like, visually, each time they're taking a better step up, and I'm glad that they're finally being challenged on this more, because it's obviously working. We saw that clip for Gen 9, and we saw you can actually see the scales on what's his face, Sylviper, right? Cool.
No, the ingredients are there. It's just not big, man. It feels like I'm playing a beta.
Yeah, but you're also playing a game on the Switch. Like, I mean, like the thing about it is like
Breath of the Wild's on Switch.
Yeah, but Breath of the Wild did a great job of making its poor graphics look great by cel shading it. That's what it was. I mean, it's the same. It's the same graphics capability that.
So then, why didn't Pokemon do that? They make way more money than Zelda.
They do not. They do not make more money than Zelda.
Pokemon is the largest selling franchise. I did my research before this. It's sold more money than any game franchise in human history.
I think that is
as an entertainment franchise, but I don't know about games wise.
That's a valid distinction, only because Zelda also doesn't have a lot of the entertainment pearls that Pokemon does. It doesn't have a card game,
merchandise.
It doesn't have a subsidiary titles that are constantly rotation, microtransactions. It doesn't have an anime series. It doesn't have a dedicated anime series. So it's a bit of a stacked deck when you're comparing Pokemon to Zelda, because Pokemon they frankly have a lot more material and outlets to work with. So that's a little bit of skewing that data as far as game applicability. But I to Dodson's point, and I think I see and agree with what he's saying here, is like Pokemon, yes, does not have the same graphical standard things that are like constantly changed and updated, or things like, especially for franchise games. This is a wonderful example, actually, because while Madden and NBA 2K and all these other, they might look amazing, they have actually set the standard for the way a lot of things have to look in video games now. That can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing. That's an entirely different deep dive. But I think the point here is that Madden games and, say, sports games in general, sports simulator games, kind of are still getting just the same thing over and over again, because when you think about their core material, football and basketball, these games have not changed. They have not changed in decades, if not. Pokemon is changing every 2 to 3 to 4 years. Like, they're constantly adding they're adding new characters, they're changing statistics, they're adding new movesets. Like, that's the new that keep
they
coming
put eyeballs
back
on a
for
toaster.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, some of those designs are phoned in. One of them is literally literally a penguin with an ice cube on it.
Feed it to you, and then we all go, "Thank you, Pop-Up." You know,
but I feel like that is the trend that RC is continuing, and that reason that why so many people are so excited and still willing to commit to the franchise is because, like, yeah, it may have taken 20 years, but also, like, it's a big step for over 20 years, but there's still been taking small steps along the way. It hasn't kept it.
You're putting an emphasis when you put it all on the graphical quality. You're putting an emphasis on something that it's never been the priority.
I said the story was trash too. They phoned that in, like, totally.
When does Pokemon have a good story?
You're piling so much up. So okay, now the graphics don't matter. Now the story doesn't matter.
Okay,
the gameplay is the first thing. This is the first time they've changed the gameplay in 20 years. So this is the first time, I guess, the gameplay's mattered. Like, you're literally like, you keep stacking up things. What does matter? The fact that it came out whenever you were a child?
The biggest thing that mattered was Swish was their primary focus, Jake, and their primary focus was focusing on the competitive aspect of Pokemon. And as a turn-based game, there has not been a game out there. There's
way to play rock paper scissors.
It's not rock paper scissors. I mean, rock paper scissors would be reducing it down to simply 3 options. There's not 3 options. There's 18 different options. And as far as a complex turn-based game goes, Swish Sword and Shield is a game that is 3 years old and still has some of the highest Twitch viewership. Still has consistent Twitch viewership. So it has been able to withstand that test. As far as the mechanic goes with that, there's still people around. You can still go on Twitter and see people trading back and forth rental teams to be used on Sword and Shield. And that was its main objective that it was trying to hit. So, yes, that's what it was going for. It was never going for graphics. It really wasn't ever really going for story, and both of which I would beg for. I would challenge on the story of Legends of Arceus though, because I did enjoy the story. Like there were aspects of it that I did think were genuinely better. I mean, like you actually built into stuff. When you're
on their competitive aspect too. Would you say that was the key? Oh, that was free. Really cool. Interesting. If you want to make something competitive, make it a subscription base and just call it. Like the fact that I had to pay $60 for a game that I thought was going to be something new.
Mario Party is competitive. No one's sitting out there saying that it shouldn't be $60. And it's not at the same you can still go out and buy that. It's just because it's a different monetizing platform. I mean, but now we're even getting further off topic because we were talking about Legends of Arceus and the objective that it reached out to go for. If you're looking at the objectives that Legends of Arceus went out for, it was trying to create a game that emphasized the discovery aspect of Pokemon. I agree, and in my notes,
4 of the same Pokemon standing in the same spot as you walk in the grass.
I mean, it's hands down. We've all that's very reductive. You've all agreed that the catching mechanics and the actual aspects of it are fundamentally more rewarding.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That little firework pop that happens when you successfully catch a Pokemon, man, that is such a dopamine hit. Come on, that little.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely almost worth the 60, but not.
I'm not debating anything here. Okay, so just to kind of refocus it,
what was our
10
poll?
words or less. 10 words or less.
I think the poll. What was the poll result? I think the poll result was in your favor, anyways. But
it went away. I didn't see it.
It went away. We'll see. I think one of our mods will have it.
It was rigged. It looks like the election was stolen. They're trying to steal the election. You go over there and you tell them what you're thinking. You go to that building right there. Now, this is not a call to action, but you go to that building.
Okay, so closing argument on both 10 words or less. We're going to keep it short. We're going to keep it sweet.
Okay.
First to Dodd, then to Jake. Is Pokemon Legends Arceus good game, or is it just good Pokemon? Dodson.
I will say it's just a good Pokemon game. 100%.
Okay. Jake.
Over those 2 options, yes.
That was my trap question, and it's a good Pokemon game. It really is, and I'll give it that. That's the biggest thing I'll concede. I know you said 10 words or less. But I will say it is a good Pokemon game. It is a good Pokemon game, and I hope they keep going in that direction, because if they do, eventually I'll be more than happy to give them 60. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until then, you'll just begrudgingly give them 60.
Until then, I'll begrudgingly give them $60.
So, as far as this, I personally do not feel bad about a $60 price point for what was, in my opinion, a huge development and creative risk for them to take. Because there are so many of these gameplay mechanics and quality of life improvements that we really did end up enjoying, but could have gone way differently, way worse in a lot of cases. And I will be the first person to agree that the graphics are not perfect. The fact that you can't even get a Pokemon to render correctly, and you sometimes have to leave the screen area where it'll spawn and go back for it to do so. Come on, but
one of my favorites is when I throw out my Alpha Electivire, and it's so big that
It doesn't manifest.
it doesn't even show up until I go away from it. Yeah.
It has to scream up, man.
So, I guess if I as moderator can summarize my own personal opinion for just the briefest of moments, is that I do not have a problem with playing a $60 price tag for Pokemon. But by comparison, especially since they came so close within release of each other, I will add that while I have no problem paying $60 for Legends Arceus, I now loathe the fact that I paid $60. That's my opinion. If Arceus has taught me anything, it's the things that I'm willing to pay for $60 wise when it comes to new and developing no content versus things I'm no longer willing to pay that same price point towards, and a remaster is now one of them. Especially for the lack of... I don't feel like I got my bang for my buck. BDSP should have been $40. Arceus can stay at 60 and me not be...
And
Oh yeah, that I would.
That makes me happy to hear, because that's exactly what I hope happens with Arceus, is that it really does kind of push the franchise into one of those things where fans start to go, if you go backwards from here, it's unacceptable. You know what I mean? We've seen what you can do.
Absolutely.
Keep it going.
Absolutely.
If you had made the argument about this being 60 or whether or not BDSP should have been 40, I would have really been. It would have been much harder to argue, and I might have just conceded because there are elements of that, and that was not done by Game Freak, but that were sloppy, or it just seemed like the reasons that they decided to cling to faithful remake were stupid, and legitimately times where it seemed like they made a worser game on a different console.
Yeah, they clung to the...
I felt a lot differently after seeing Arceus, because it felt like such a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, I very much agree. It has definitely changed my perspective on... I guess Arceus started an entirely different, equally important conversation in the game community, is that what are you willing to pay what for? And regardless of what dollar amount you put where, the fact that we're having those conversations, I think, is really positive and really healthful for the video game industry, because it is in such a wild state of flux right now with things like subscriptions versus microtransactions, free to play versus not. Becoming the conscientious consumers as a whole when it comes to consuming the media that we do, I feel like this is where it starts to come into video games.
Yeah.
So I guess in the spirit of finally actually having a head-to-head debate, and it's probably going to sound biased because everyone's heard me talk before anyways, but I think I ultimately have to decide in Dodd's favor on this one, only because at the end of the day, I do think Arceus is still worth $60. I feel like Jake made every single one of your points absolutely valid, and I think that's a certain degree of a wake-up call for Nintendo regarding about managing expectations for their consumers. But at the end of the day, I am very happy paying $60 for Arceus, and I will pay $60 for Gen 9, but I am regretful and bitter over the fact that I spent same price point on a game where it measured up in a lot lower.
100%. No. Well, thank you, Savage, for moderating it all around, even though you sided
I
against
tried.
me. I'll remember that.
Rig the court in my favor.
I know. The election was
Like
rigged.
kangaroo court!
People are telling me
Style.
they're finding Jake votes in the trash.
Truck in Ohio.
Stuffed it into a truck. There's a Twitch truck somewhere. They took him out of chat and they threw him in a truck.
Amazon
Well-
Prime to them across the state.
Well, that will wrap it up for the first half of our show, guys. But don't go anywhere. When we get back, we will have our deep dive into some studio buyouts. Then we're going to wrap things up with our top Zen. And this week, it is our top 10 indie games, as voted on by you, the people, because democracy matters here at Geek Life. And so stick around. We've got a lot more show coming back. We'll be back in 5.